They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Okay, let's go through and let's talk about some of these forwards that you need to be avoiding in your fantasy basketball drafts in 2021. But of course, before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, go tell us down there in the comment section how stupid we are. I encourage you to tell us how dumb we are and what we got wrong in this video. And also go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, it's the best place to get some practice fantasy basketball drafts in this season before your main fantasy basketball draft. And what's great is if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy and make a $10 deposit, you get a max deposit bonus, you support this channel, and you get our 2021 fantasy basketball draft guide. Just after you to make that deposit, send a message to Fantasy News and Brews on Twitter with your email address that you signed up with to confirm. And yeah, I think that's all I got for the intro to this video. Garrett, how are you doing? And what forwards are we going to be looking at today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And again, just to hop on that guide talk, all these guys are basically on our bust list. We give a pretty okay analysis on each of them and why we're going to be avoiding them. And if you want to get in on that, you know, the draft guide is really, really going to help you guys just nail your draft and set you guys up for success. So definitely send code FLOCK to Fantasy News and Brews, and I'm just going to dive right in. My first forward that I'm going to be avoiding is I'm going to do a little bit of a hybrid here. It's going to be Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I'm going to avoid both of them. You know, they're both two guys that the Lakers have basically come out and said that they're going to be resting them more than usual. They both are going to cost you a first or early second pick. And, you know, they just got Russell Westbrook as well. So I think Russ is really, really going to take the load off their shoulders in the season. And they're going to probably try to save Anthony Davis and LeBron for the playoffs because they really want this chip this year. So I am going to be avoiding them at their draft capital price. That being said, I think that if you have them or if you want them, they're still going to be good players, but I think that they're going to miss a lot of games. And for me, I just don't want to take that risk when I know that there are other guys available in the first round who will miss less games and will probably produce just as great, if not better. So Anthony Davis and LeBron James are two guys that I'm going to be avoiding.
Well, and one thing that has to be discussed, like if Russell Westbrook is going to see his like usual usage in this offense, I mean, clearly the Lakers are just going to look entirely different because, I mean, yeah, their entire roster pretty much is getting shaken up. I mean, they have, if you look top to bottom, very few players from that 2020 roster coming into 2021. But still, with Westbrook, if you're looking at the past few seasons on just like his field goal attempts per game, I mean, this past year is down at 19, but it was the first time he had taken less field goal attempts than 20 on a per game basis since 2015. So even if you're expecting him to come in and be a slightly different type style of a player, I mean, I don't know why you could expect that because we have seen him now on 3 different rosters in the NBA just play that exact ball dominant role that we have seen him throughout his entire NBA career with. And B, even if he comes in and lowers that slightly down, just how he dictates the ball and how he really does everything for the offense that he is in. I mean, 19 field goal attempts a game this past season. He also is bringing the ball down the court. I mean, he had almost 12 assists a game at the same time. Now, yes, that was in Washington. Yes, with Washington, I mean, doesn't necessarily have close to the same talent of a LeBron or an Anthony Davis. So you'd assume that Westbrook's going to play a slightly different role. But I mean, how different can it actually be? Because if you go out there and you make a play for Russell Westbrook, you're not going to be asking him to all of a sudden be Klay Thompson.
Yeah, no, I think that even Russell's someone that I want to avoid. I just kind of want to avoid the Lakers this year. I think that their goal is to sneak into the playoffs, make sure that they're in the playoffs, and then that's when they're going to be giving it their all. You know, Russ, I think, is going to be more of the regular season kind of guy. He's going to play Russ ball a lot. He's going to play hero ball a lot. And I think that just takes away from, you know, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So I'm just avoiding the Lakers in general unless someone, you know, if I can get LeBron or Anthony Davis in the end of the second, like, yeah, I'm going to jump all over that. But nobody's going to let them get that low. So for me, it's just not worth the asking price. And like you just gave a great analysis of Russell Westbrook. I'm just kidding. I actually really like Russ, but it's going to make it tough. So they're all just on the do not draft for me unless they crazy fall. Next up, I'm going to go with someone who's going to piss a lot of Knicks fans off, if you don't mind. Okay, Julius Randle. I've been preaching this all preseason. He looked great in the preseason, actually. I mean, he looked good. He looked really good. He was scorching hot last year. I think that he was just one of the best players in the league at that point. Then he dropped and fell back right to earth during the postseason. Guys figured out how to play against him, and I think that is going to translate into this regular season. And on top of that, they got a bunch of new guys, right? They got Kemba, quickly is evolving, and they're not going to need him like they needed him last year. So I think that the majority of his stats are going to come down. I think his minutes are going to come down. He was playing crazy high minutes last year. I think that's going to come down like it did even in the postseason. And yeah, so he's just on my do not draft list for the asking price.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, looking at like the postseason statistics, that's like such a small sample to look at that I would rather not focus in too much on that. But going back to just seeing the new players coming into New York, at the same time, I think one of the main reasons that Randle was so good from a fantasy basketball standpoint this past year was not with the efficiency or the player that he actually was. However, this is someone that averaged 37.6 minutes per game. I mean, yeah, that's Tom Thibodeau just at his finest. You're not going to see that really. There's no way that happens yet again. To see that kind of usage season to season, that is going to catch up with someone. I mean, his efficiency statistics, I mean, obviously took a drastic dip down. He's playing a little bit of a different style in New York than what they asked for him in New Orleans as well as Los Angeles. So you would naturally assume that the field goal percentage is coming down. But still, if you look across the board, pretty much, I know he was a much more effective player if you're looking at true shooting and everything of that sort, but still, we're not evaluating this player from an NBA standpoint. You're evaluating him from a fantasy basketball standpoint. And I'd imagine that you're right that they do scale him back to maybe 32, 33 minutes per game, similar to what he had in 2019 with the Knicks. I just think that if you're going to be projecting him to see over 37 minutes a game again, that is extremely aggressive.
And another problem with him, I like him, right? Like if he was going in if his ADP was around 30, I would consider it at that point. But his ADP as of the time that we made the draft was 23. That the guy before him was Donovan Mitchell. I'm taking Donovan Mitchell every time. And then if you look, SGA goes after Julius Randle. You have Brandon Ingram. You have Rudy Gobert. Like these are all guys that are after Julius Randle. I would rather have all of those guys who've shown, last year that this wasn't a fluke. And Julius Randle, again, just too high of an ADP, too much. He was just too hot last year to keep it up. His stats were too high, including his playing time. And he's just someone that I'm not going to touch in my drafts unless he falls to me in the third or fourth round. And I highly doubt that happens.
And also, what's the chance that RJ Barrett just sees a different role in this offense that he just turned 21 years old. He was 20 years old last year. He took a significant step forward in year 2. I mean, I would imagine in year 3 that they're going to be looking to get him the ball slightly more. So that could also take it out of Randle's hands. So I think, yeah, just RJ Barrett taking that other step forward could also kind of hurt Julius Randle just slightly.
RJ Barrett's actually a guy I really like this year. He has an ADP of around 83 as the time we made the draft. And, I have him ranked at 72. So I actually really like RJ this year. I think he's going to take a step forward. I think people forget how young he is. And people also forget that consistency is one of the easier things to improve on. Not many NBA players can go in and drop a 50 bomb, and I feel like RJ Barrett's the kind of guy who has the talent to do that. He just needs to work on the consistency to do it in and game out, and I think that he has the potential. I think that he has the tools, and I think that he's just going to keep getting better and better every year. So I agree with you. I think RJ Barrett's also going to hurt Randle. I think they're going to try to lean on him because, right now he's their main asset, if you ask me. He's a young star, and New York is going to want to develop him. They'd be ridiculous to not try at all. So I agree with you there. Last guy, kind of a cop-out, but not really. I think people need to hear it. Last video we did Clay and Murray, and so I'm going to throw one in, and that is Siakam. Siakam's out for, I don't even think we have a timeline on him right now. I think probably December, November. I'm avoiding it. He's gonna be just like we talked about with Clay and Murray. He's the kind of guy, and you actually did a really, really great analysis. He's the kind of guy that you don't draft because you can probably trade for him in season for way cheaper than it would cost to draft him. He's a 5th or 6th round pick. I'm not wasting that on Siakam when you don't even know when he's coming back. If you're doing great in season and you have a lot of loaded guys, he's a guy that I would, unload some pieces for in December. For now, he's not going to help your team. He's going to waste an early round pick, and we don't know. He could be on a minutes restriction when he comes back for half the year. These are just things that I am not going to risk with that early of a draft pick.
I know, and just in case you missed the last video, essentially the analysis in drafting an injured players, while in theory it can make a lot of sense if they go to those levels you expect from their per game statistics at the end of the year. And in theory, that player should be more and more valuable every day that we get closer to him actually making that return. And in reality, fantasy managers are stupid. I mean, you're going to see that his value probably declines as he's not playing, and other players in that similar draft range are actually putting up points. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason in drafting that injured player if we can possibly trade for them at a cheaper price 3 weeks from now, a month from now, 6 weeks from now, despite, I mean, what we don't know right now about Siakam. I mean, there will be some clarity with the injury in a few weeks. Yeah, I just agree with you. I think there's no reason to draft those injured players now when we can possibly trade for them at a cheaper price just a few weeks from now.
That's all I had. If you want me to throw one more, I think I can. I might as well. It's gonna be a little bit of another hot take, and I'll probably get some heat for this one as well. I'm avoiding Michael Porter Jr. This is a guy who could be the next star of the NBA. He could be so good, and this one is the one that I think could bite me in the ass the hardest out of all of my takes this year. But there's just way too much controversy going on with him. He's super injury prone. When he came into the league doctor said that they don't even think he can play basketball. Then he gets injured again every other year. Last year he was pretty streaky. I mean, he went on some hot streaks. With Murray out, everyone's pumping up his draft ADP, and he's just not a guy that I want to waste that high of a pick on. I mean, Jokic is going to be the guy. He's the guy, right? He's the one who is going to run the team. And then you have Michael Porter Jr., who he did finish almost top 50 last year. I will give him that. But hang on, let me pull it up. Right now, his average draft position is 33. That's a really high pick. And when I did a best ball draft a couple days ago, he went higher than that. I would want a more solidified guy with less injury risk. Right now, I have Michael Porter Jr. ranked around 46. I mean, if I can get him around pick 50, yeah, I'll do it. But I know he's not going to be there then because a lot of people really like him, and I'm just not on that train this year. So I will be avoiding him. I would not be surprised to see him be the most improved player and just make me look like a complete idiot, though. So he's going to be the hot take of this video.
That is tough. The ceiling is just so damn high. Like you could see you losing your league based on passing him up.
The ceiling's the highest, probably out of most of the players in the NBA, but the floor is the lowest. You have to remember that. This is a gamble. And as I preach in every single video, I try to avoid risk as much as possible. Yeah, he could be a league winner. Yeah, he could be a league loser. I'm not trying to put my whole fantasy team on his back because his back is pretty much broken, I think the doctor said. So I'm going to stay away. And I'm going to let someone else take that risk and potentially beat me, hopefully in the listener league. Whoever gets Michael Porter Jr., hopefully they beat me and then they send me a message telling me how dumb I am. That would be great.
Well, I'm not going to be able to endorse that, but of course, let us know how stupid we are down there in the comment section. And of course, go down there, drop that like, subscribe to the channel, go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. When you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, you can get some fantasy basketball drafts to practice for the season. Make that $10 deposit and then get our 2021 fantasy basketball draft guide. Just make sure you confirm by sending your email to Fantasy News and Brews on Twitter ASAP. That's signed up for Underdog Fantasy, of course. And yeah, I think that's all we got for you. Have a great day, and we'll see you with the video tomorrow.